Hey guys, welcome to my review of the WRLD, that's WRLD, on GCW, which is short for Game Changer Wrestling. Now, in case you guys do not know what Game Changer Wrestling is, a little bit of a short history. In fact, I even touched upon it a little bit during the event, especially the first match, a first official match, that is, the pay-per-view. It used to be known as Jersey Championship Wrestling or something like that, Jersey Pro Wrestling. And then it got rebranded as Game Changer Wrestling. In other words, very similar to ECW when it was the NWA ECW, basically NWA Eastern Championship Wrestling, and then they rebranded themselves Extreme Championship Wrestling. That's kind of very similar to what happened here. Now, I will say they didn't, do any like throw down the another company or promotion's title to rebrand yourself or anything, but still, it sounds very similar. They've been around for a couple of years now. In fact, they're most notably known for being the home promotion, or at least one of them, for MDK Nick Gage. That's right, the same Nick Gage that had a Dark Side of the Ring episode done on him, which he was interviewed for and everything. That's basically what GCW. That's basically what GCW is. Essentially, it is the home base of Nick Gage, or at least one of them, one of the main home bases, that is. And they go all the way around. They go everywhere, and I think that's why they went from Jersey Pro Wrestling, Jersey Championship Wrestling to Game Changer Wrestling, so that way they can go abroad and travel to different parts of the country. And they've been here on the West Coast. They've been in Los Angeles. They've been in San Diego. In fact, they had a kind of a crossover event a couple of months ago with one of the promotions here in San Diego. It was basically a territorial deathmatch kind of deal with Nick Gage and a guy that was basically a drunken version of Ronald McDonald or something like that, or basically extreme effed up version of Ronald McDonald. And they had a violent match. Now, the one thing about the ring they were using during that event is it was set up in an alleyway. Basically, it was in the back area of a market, if you will. It's like the way it was set up. It's like you have this alleyway in the back of this. I would guess it would be shopping center or something like that, and everything. You had like this alleyway here, and then you had it set up to where people can come around from the crowds, or crowd around and be there. But you had like the ring in the middle, and then on the outside you could see like the other side of the street or something like that, going into the intersections or something like that, stuff like that. So it was kind of like supposed to give off a gang-like feel, because that's what it was. That's what that event was. It was supposed to be like a gang war situation, a territorial one. They've been here on the West Coast. They've been in Detroit. They've been in Chicago. I'm sure they've been to the Midwest. They've been everywhere so far. Sure, there's some places they haven't touched upon yet, but I guarantee you, WrestleMania weekend in April, they will be touching down on some of those places in the Texas, Dallas area, without a doubt, in my opinion. But yeah. They finally had their first pay-per-view, official pay-per-view. I mean, they've been on pay-per-view before, but it's been pay-per-view, PPV, and as well as on Fight, because I guess of the way they are sometimes. And basically, besides that, they've never really had any true official pay-per-view event that could be seen by everybody. On television. You literally pay for it. I mean, you're paying for it on Fight and do the pay-per-views and all that, but never like legitimately on television, to where it's like you could tune in to channel 892 and there it says Game Changer Wrestling. You're like, what is this? And then you kind of recognize the name if you've been following it and going like, oh, they got a pay-per-view? Okay, I'm going to check this out. And that's what I did. Now here's the thing. I did not watch it live when it happened because I was working at Target. On Sunday. I didn't watch it live. I was working at Target that night, doing carts and, cleaning bathrooms and stuff. mainly doing all the responsibilities that an FOS attendant is supposed to do. And then I decided yesterday that, you know what, I want to reward myself with something for finally getting back to work. And I decided I was going to order on demand GCW, the World on GCW. And I will say this, and I think this is why a lot of people probably go this route and don't, do reviews on it till later on, or do reviews on pay-per-view events till later on, if they go the traditional pay-per-view route. The reason I think they do it is mainly the fact that you could pause the event, and, if you have to, like, get up, go to the bathroom, check the mail, whatever, and then come back and unpause it, or pause it and go get something to eat, get like a popcorn, some soda, beer, whatever, come back, unpause it. That's the benefit of the, ordering the on-demand version. Or basically, if you have to go somewhere, like if you have to work, you could just watch a little bit, stop it, come back, go to work, I should say, then come back later on that day or night, get relaxed, get yourself something to eat and drink, tune it back on, and there you go. You can just resume where you left off. And that's kind of what I did. I kind of did that yesterday. I kind of paused it, a couple of times because I had to check things, and then of course my mom came home, and she I had to, what I'm trying to say is my mom came home and she had me help her get her stuff and everything out of the car. And after that, I just went back in my room after taking care of a little bit more that she needed me to take care of, like, putting some things away and stuff, getting her charger for her phone and stuff, giving her slippers, if you know what I mean. So I basically, like I said, I went back into my room afterwards because she was turning on the TV here. She's going to watch her show, get relaxed, or watch some of her programming, get relaxed. So I turned on the TV here in my room and resumed watching Game Changer Wrestling. And I enjoyed it. And, what I'm trying to say is that it's still kind of early for me. It's 10:37 in the morning, and my mom usually calls me about this time during her break to check up on things, to see how things are, and then that's it. So that's why I'm kind of like fumbling on my words, because I don't know if she's going to be calling in a little bit or not. But anyway though, that's what I basically did. I paused it, came back to it later on last night, watched the rest of it, and overall, I thought it was a good show. I mean, I can understand where some people feel that, there was some things that were a little off-putting, like, some of the, like, it felt very, like, not, big production-wise presentation like what we're used to with AEW and WWE and even Impact to an extent. So, so I could see where, some people were complaining about that, like, some of the, like, the camera angles, the sound and stuff like that. I get it. But you have to also remember, they weren't just, showing this on traditional pay-per-view for the first time. They were also simulcasting this on Fight TV. So basically the feed we were getting on pay-per-view, traditional pay-per-view, was the feed that was being presented on Fight TV. So that kind of, interfered with what was going on. But besides that, I thought it was a good show. I thought it was a decent show. I didn't see the kickoff show yet. I got to go back and watch that. But from what I understand, it was good. It was a good kickoff show. But as far as the official card goes, I thought the card was good. I thought it was decent. Excuse me. First of all, you had this grab the brass ring ladder match. And there was some people I recognized in there. If you will, like Jordan Oliver, I recognize from the Injustice stable and MLW. I guess they've pretty much taken that out of the equation now, and it's just, him on his own as the East Coast Pro or something like that. So Jordan Oliver was in there, PCO was in there, what is it, Grim Reaver or G Reaver or J Raver was in there. A guy named Floyd, Jimmy Floyd or something like that was in there. They had AJ Gray come in. He's the GCW Extreme Champion. AJ Gray come in there. They had Alex Colon. They had a bunch. They had some decent guys in there, but I'll say this: even though the ladder match was good, it had some spots in there people would not expect. I mean, there was a spot. I'll put it this way: there was a spot. I don't know if anybody pointed this out. There was a spot where basically one of the guys, I think it was Deppen, I think that was the guy's name, Tony Deppen. He was another one in there. He was on one ladder, one of the orange ladders, and Jordan Oliver looks like he's gonna get grabbed by somebody. I don't know if it was Cologne or whoever, but Jordan Oliver bounces off the middle ropes and literally grabs Deppen, I think it's Deppen, into a freaking cutter off the ladder, bouncing off the springboarding off the rope back towards him. That was like I saw that and I was like, what the hey? You know, I couldn't believe what I saw there. Now, was this a pretty match? No. Was this one of those best MITB matches that you would see elsewhere? No. But it was decent. I'm going to say that. It was decent. I mean, what's crazy is the first ladder they had in there is the kind of ladder you would have at home. You would have, ready, at home, basically. It's the kind of ladder that's, you set up, you prop up, and you have like a little stand right there where you can put your tools and everything. They had that, and obviously I saw that, and I was like, that's not going to last. And it didn't. It bent up a little bit, throughout the match, or it got bent up, I should say, a little bit throughout the match. And they had other ladders all the way around. They had a ladder at the outside on like the corner of the ring that was like this high. They had a ladder that was a regular like orange-sized ladder that you could climb up, and if you're tall enough, you could reach the brass ring and get it. And then they had another one that was like the second highest one there. And, the match just went from there, kind of deal. The match just went from there. There were two moves that people were talking about, and I do have to point this out. There were two moves in the match that really were like, you look at one of the moves, I think it was by G Raver. You look at that the move he was doing, you're thinking, wait a minute, dude, you're right there next to the brass ring. Why not catch it, then go down? But he didn't. What happened is that he went on one of the taller ladders. He literally goes to the tippy top. Even the commentators pointed out, hey, wait a minute, he's right there. What the heck? But instead of grabbing the brass ring, he pushes it out of the way because he wants to dive down onto Alex Colon, who he has sandwiched between a ladder, that's bridged up between two chairs. And then if that's not enough, you have AJ Gray. I don't know if he was trying something on G Reaver or if Lloyd. I've got to go back and watch it. He goes to the ladder on the outside, and it looks like he's going to jump on. I'm not sure what he was planning, but it looked like he was trying to think of maybe doing a jump off the ladder on the outside to the ladder, kind of bridge between the bottom rope or middle rope in the ring. Kind of maybe springboard off that ladder and onto, I don't know if it was Floyd or somebody. But what happened is I guess he lost his balance and he fell elbow first right into the ladder. And everybody has said that was the first Botchamania move, not just of the night, but I think everybody would agree that's the first Botchamania of 2022. But overall, besides that, the match was okay. It was a decent opener, and AJ Gray, despite that botch, ends up winning the match. Ends up winning the match. He grabs the brass ring, and thus he earns himself a future title shot. Now, what they did say to specifically, make sure nobody was confused, is whoever grabs the brass ring, they can get a shot at any title they choose in the future in GCW. It could be the tag titles, the Extreme title, the world title. And since he is the Extreme champion, and they even made note of this, he's probably going to go after the world title, which is currently held by Jon Moxley. And that right there will be a violent match, there's no doubt. So the next match we had was Lucha Rules Trios match. We had Team Bandito, which was Bandito, Laredo Kid, and ACF, against Team Gringo, which was Gringo Loco. I can't think of the other guy's name, and Demonic Phantasma. Demonic Flamita, Demonic Flamita, and I can't think of the other guy's name right now. It's off the blank of my head. It's kind of blanking out here. But anyway, they had a great match. I mean, everybody, if you ask people, okay, what was you consider, the match of the night, right? Like what would you consider, the match of the night? And everybody will look at this match and a few others, but this one right here would be like the top contender for that match. Let me see if I can see. Gringo, Arez is who it is. Arez. So it's like I said, it was Team Gringo, Team Bandito, which was Bandito, Laredo Kid, and ACF, against Team Gringo, which was Gringo Loco, Arez, and Demonic Flamita. And this match, like I said, was insane. Everybody would, as I was saying, everybody will be asked, what do you think was the match of the night and a possible match of the year candidate, very early one that is. People will point to this. Because there were moves in this match that I was like, whoa, shit. Excuse me kind of deal. I mean, there was a move, I'm surprised nobody pointed it out. There was a move, well, Arez, and I think it was Demonic Flamita, had ACF just basically on the outside, swinging him back and forth, and all of a sudden, whee! Tosses him over the top rope, launches. They basically were doing like a swing with him, and they swung him right over the top rope into the ring chest first, and I'm like, holy shit! I was like, what the hell? And then, of course, everybody talks about the triple or double stacked electric chair moment, where you had basically Gringo Loco holding up Demonic Flamita, and Demonic Flamita was holding up Arez, and on the other side you had Bandito holding up Laredo Kid, and Laredo Kid holding up ACF. And they were battling on top, and then ACF hits a freaking Canadian or Mexican destroyer on Arez off of the top of that tower. If you will, excuse me there. Off the top of that tower. But in the end, Gringo Loco ends up getting the win for his team by hooking up ACF after like a little bit of a botch, a little slip over, something like that. He grabs him, puts him on his back, hits his move, and gets the 1-2-3 for Team Gringo. And what's crazy is that all the fans, at ringside or something like that, started throwing in dollar bills. They started throwing in money to the wrestlers. I guess that's a tradition in Mexico. But they were throwing in money to the wrestlers, thanking them basically for a great matchup. And I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So, yeah, basically, this was an outstanding match. I can't say any more than that. And if you could find it on YouTube, I highly recommend you watch this. You will not be disappointed. You will not be disappointed. All right, so what was next? I want to make sure I get everything right here. Okay, so the next match was Blake Christian against Lio Rush. Now, Blake Christian apparently had a brief period in NXT as Trey Baxter before he was released. So Blake Christian took on Lio Rush. Now, Blake Christian originally was supposed to take on Jonathan Gresham for the Ring of Honor World title. Now, let me talk about that for a second. You see, what I understand, and I'm sure some of you have heard this too, but for some of you that don't, apparently Hold on for a sec. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Like I told you, something like that was going to happen. That's why I was fumbling on my words earlier, because I knew she was going to call eventually. So I do apologize for that. Anyway, though, getting back to what I was saying, the Blake Christian-Lio Rush match. Now, like I was saying, Blake Christian was originally supposed to face Jonathan Gresham for the Ring of Honor World title, and that's what I was trying to talk about before the phone rang there. From what I understand, and I'm sure a lot of you, as I was mentioning before the phone rang, probably know about this, but I guess as part of the revamp, because they are coming back with Supercard of Honor, and one of the matches that they've already signed, depending on the situation, is Bandito against Jonathan Gresham for the undisputed Ring of Honor World title. In other words, champion versus champion. Whoever wins is undisputed Ring of Honor champion. And that's great. That's fine. And that's going to be the main event of Supercard of Honor. Bandito against Jonathan Gresham, title for title, to declare an undisputed champion. But, from what I understand, as part of the revamp, according to some reports, is the people at Ring of Honor, and I think even Sinclair Broadcasting, want to start treating the Ring of Honor World Title and the Ring of Honor Women's Title and even the Tag Titles, which are the ones they want to focus on more so than anything else, which means as as basically as part of the restructuring, the 6-man titles and the pure title and the tag titles are going to be deactivated. They're going to be defunct, if you will. Basically, they're going to be they're going to be shelved for the time being. I guess until maybe they get back fully on their feet and they feel confident that they could add more titles again. The main focus is going to be the Ring of Honor World Title, the Women's Title, and the Tag Titles. And that the way they're going to treat each and every one of them is basically identical to how the NWA used to treat the NWA World Title. And still technically do to this day. But mostly it's more focused on being defended within the NWA. Now that Billy Corgan owns that, I think he's willing to let it be defended outside. But I think they're more cautious of, hey, let's just keep it within house kind of deal. But getting back to the Ring of Honor title, the plan, obviously, from what I understand, for it, the women's and the tag titles, is to treat them like the old school NWA titles. Hold on for a second. I got discombobulated there because my mom called. Hold on. She had to vent to me about something, so that's about it. There you go. There we go. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is they want to treat the Ring of Honor championships, the ones they're going to focus on, just like the NWA used to focus back in the old days, back in before Billy Corgan's purchase and all that, and even at the beginning of it. They want to treat it very similar to how that was treated. In other words, the champions can defend the titles in any promotion that they choose, just like what is going on now with the Ring of Honor World Title and even the Women's Title, and I think to an extent the tag titles. They want to, they basically want to, have these titles defended anywhere at any time, in any promotion, just like the NWA used to do with some of their governing partners. Like when I was, for example, when I went to go see a Central States wrestling event at the community building in Lawrence, Kansas, the headline was a special tag team match for the NWA World Championship with Raven and Sabu defending against two mainstays of the NWA CSW. And it was a great match, a tag match, don't get me wrong. Violent, it was Raven's rules and all that. It's not a problem. But the championship at that time was always primarily seen on TNA, so it was treated somewhat like a TNA title before TNA did separated, did their own thing kind of deal. But it was always seen like that, right? It was always seen like that. So the NWA would allow whoever the champion was that got crowned at a TNA event or wherever TNA was partnered with, to defend the title in any different promotion that was NWA affiliated or would partner up with the NWA. A good prime example of this is when Raven lost to Jeff Jarrett at that Border City wrestling event in Canada. When he lost to him there. Even though that was BCW and basically a different promotion, it had an association with the NWA. And the NWA allowed the champions to defend in any other promotion, but like I said, before Billy Corgan came in and purchased it, somewhat allows that to happen, but more about keeping it in-house, if you know what I mean. So, long story short, before I sound like I get too ramblish, long story short, that's what Ring of Honor is doing here. And if not currently starting to do so as well, because we had Jonathan Gresham already twice in Impact defend the Ring of Honor title. We've had Rock-C, that's ROK-C, defend and lose the Ring of Honor Women's title to Deonna Purrazzo on a recent episode of Impact. So, long story short, the plan is basically to have, their championships for their promotion represented anywhere their champions are booked. So that way, not only do they stay relevant, but it shows that this new direction that Ring of Honor is going to go in is a direction that says, hey, we're going to be more indie than we ever were, and that whoever, let's say from, GCW, or, whoever from, PWG, let's say, beats Jonathan Gresham for the title, then that person will be recognized by us as the new Ring of Honor champion, and will be our, our champion going into certain cards and events, status depending, if you know what I mean. Anyway, that's what Ring of Honor wants to do, or is planning to do with this revamp when it comes to the championships. But getting to this match with Blake Christian, originally, like I said, he was supposed to face Jonathan Gresham for the title, but Jonathan Gresham had to pull out due to medical reasons. A lot of people are saying that it's probably due to him getting COVID. Some are saying it was mainly due to medical protocol, so maybe he got the cold or the flu or something, and they didn't want to risk it. Maybe it could be COVID or the Omicron variant of COVID. So basically, long story short, they had to get a replacement. Now, originally, his opponent, Blake Christian's replacement opponent, was supposed to be in the ladder match earlier, but AJ Gray took his spot, and the person that took the place of Jonathan Gresham, because AJ Gray took his spot, was Lio Rush. And him and Blake, obviously, they've had a history. He's had some great matches. In the, the commentators, and even Blake Christian, acknowledged that. They even brought in Ian Riccaboni for the call of this match, because originally it was supposed to be a Ring of Honor title match, but didn't happen. So, but he was still there to call it because he was committed to. And long story short, this match was good. I mean, what else can you expect from Lio Rush? Blake Christian proved, I guess, why he had a brief cup of coffee with NXT as Trey Baxter. But yeah, it was really, really good. These guys went back and forth. And in the end, Blake Christian won over Lio Rush in a tremendous matchup. It was a tremendous matchup. His finisher is kind of like, it's a lariat kind of springboard kind of, it's a lariat into like a moonsault kind of deal, or, what's it called? Kind of like a lariat into a moonsault deal, whatever. But anyway, he ends up winning the match and everything. It was a great match and stuff. And obviously he's going to get, because he even says it on the mic, that he wants his world title match that he was promised, and it has been confirmed, I think, that he will get that shot between now and Supercard of Honor in Dallas in April. Alright, so the next match was Matt Cardona with Chelsea Green against the bad boy Joey Janela. And here's the thing about this match. How this match started was, I guess you can look it up here on YouTube. Matt was doing one of his traditional unboxings, like a lot of us do, and it was a gift. It was a box sent to him by Joey, and Joey had sent him, and this was literally, I guess, weeks after the wedding between him and Chelsea. Joey had sent Matt Cardona a box of pictures showing Janela with Chelsea, and Matt was infuriated. He was like, what is this? And he's calling Chelsea over, and Chelsea's like, I don't know what's going on here. So, what they were doing mainly is they were doing that old school story of she was mine before she was yours. Just like they did with Ric Flair and Randy Savage and Elizabeth, when they were building up to WrestleMania 8. Basically that, like, she was mine before she was yours. And you would think this would make Janela the heel, right? Nope. Basically Janela was the babyface, because everybody still views, and I'll give Matt Cardona a lot of credit here, they still view him, that being Matt, that is, and Chelsea, as outsiders to GCW. And what I'm depicting here with Matt and Chelsea's storyline, mostly Matt's, is he's trying to open up from his perspective. He's trying to open up GCW's minds, or their eyes, if you will, open up GCW's eyes and make them realize, hey, you're no different than WWE, you're no different than AEW, you're no different than this company or that company, because all you're basically all you hang your hat on is deathmatch wrestling, and that's it. And that's pretty much what it is. That's pretty much what it is. That all you do is his thing is all they do is they claim to hang their hat on deathmatch wrestling. I'm surprised he hasn't come out, unless he has come out, and maybe you guys can correct me on this. I'm surprised he hasn't come out and basically blatantly called them out and said, look, all you guys are is a modern day version of ECW, or a modern day second rate version of ECW. I'm surprised he hasn't done that. I'm surprised he hasn't done that or anything. But he's been basically like the outsider of WW, of not WWE, but of GCW. He's been the outsider of it. He's embracing all the sports entertainmentness of it. He's basically trying to change the culture of GCW. Basically, like I say, open up their eyes to the fact that they're no different than what ECW was, and all they are is a modern day version of that company to an extent. The same way I'm sure he looks at, because he does the same thing, very similar on NWA. He does something very similar on NWA, where he's trying to make them realize that, hey, you could be more than this, that all you really are is trying to, relive the past, and that's cool, but, you need to do more to do that. You need to bring in names like myself to help you out, things like that. So he's kind of doing something similar with the NWA deal. And I like it. I really do. It's, this to me is basically something that, when I look at WWE or even AEW would probably be more willing than WWE, but I look at both those promotions and even Impact to an extent. And like I said, like I just said with AEW, I'm sure Impact would do the same thing. But I look at both of those promotions, if you will. I look at both of those promotions, if not all three. And I say, these are the kind of people that you gotta trust. Just trust these people to do their thing and let the magic happen. And I guarantee you right now, WWE is paying close attention to what Matt's doing right now, and they are kicking themselves thinking, well, where did this guy come from? Where did this side of him come from? Maybe we can utilize this. And if I'm Bruce Pritchard, I'm Vince McMahon, mostly Bruce and John Laurinaitis and Kevin Dunn, whoever. I call Matt up and I say, hey, you want to come back? Now, sure, Matt might not want to do it, but if they offer him the fact that, hey, we'll let you continue doing what you're doing right now, in WWE, we'll let you go because obviously you can do it, he might consider it. But yeah, he's basically the outsider when it comes to GCW. He's everything GCW hates, but obviously he's embraced by the fan base because, he basically, acknowledges what GCW is. He was in the opening package of the show, acknowledging that, hey, you got all the talent, but you'll never be a main eventer kind of deal. Kind of reading off, I guess, what was sent to him before he was let go by WWE. But to me, I look at the fact that this guy is, this guy right now is showing the world that he can be everything that people, WWE wants someone to be, but they just got to trust him. They cannot, try to overtake his ideas or anything like they did in the past. So yeah, here though, he represents everything that, GCW is against, and he is the biggest troll in GCW. He's the biggest troll, if you will, because as soon as he comes out to the ring, he comes out to the entrance music of Enter the Sandman by Metallica, the same song that Sandman used to come out to, and it really threw a lot of people off, thinking, what the heck is going on? And then they see it's Matt Cardona along with Chelsea, and Matt's got this T-shirt on him that says, if Cardona, wins, we riot. And it's basically a T-shirt of what is in the stand, very similar to ECW One Night Stand 2006, where we had fans had a sign that says, if Cena wins, we riot. They had one here that says, if Cardona wins, we riot. And they kind of stay true to that, if you will. They kind of stay true to that. But yeah, he came out to that. He was just trolling the fans. He got in their faces, spit in their faces, stuff like that. And then Joey Janela came out, and these two had they had a good match. They had a good match. It was hardcore, if you will, not as hardcore as you would expect, but it was a decently brutal match. They used doors, chairs, if you will. So it was decent. Chelsea got involved, with the kendo stick, which, basically Joey shrugged off and then broke it, and then eventually got his hands on her and power drived her. So yeah, again, these guys went back and forth, and this match had everything. This was almost like a love letter to a lot of things nostalgic. A love letter to everything nostalgic. And then it happened in the Hammerstein Ballroom with some other major promotions. For example, they had somebody come out from under the ring and spear Janela through the door, one of the doors, and this person was wearing a leather jacket and a helmet, very similar to what Edge did at ECW One Night Stand 2006. And this person revealed themselves to be Brian Myers. Now, you got to remember something. The last time we saw Myers and Cardona together, in a wrestling promotion, they were feuding against each other. So obviously, they're not doing that here in GCW. And Matt ends up winning the match. But during the match, you have Smart Mark Sterling, who I swear, I don't know if anybody's denying this, but the guy has the same name as the Central States Wrestling wrestler, Mark Sterling. So I don't know if it's the same guy or not. I don't really know. But he shows up. He brings out Vince, and it's Virgil in under a Vince mask. And then, like I said, you have Brian. Then you have Hornswoggle show up under the ring. He's grabbing Janela's leg. And then you have this big wrestler called Sam Stackhouse, who literally pulverizes Hornswoggle until he gets taken out. And then you have Marco Stunt show up, beat the heck out of Hornswoggle. Then he gets taken out by a Canadian destroyer by Chelsea. And then, of course, like I said, Myers shows up, does his thing, and Cardona wins. And then, after he wins, all of a sudden you hear the Run DMC remix of the DX theme, and out comes Sean Waltman, a.k.a. X-Pac, a.k.a. Six-Pac, if you will, in WCW, coming out to make the save. And he looked great. Tremendous. He looked really tremendous. And, yeah, that was that match. So yeah, that was the match there. It was, like I said, it was a decent match, semi-brutal, and Cardona won. And I think basically putting Cardona over is the best decision, because eventually you want to build to him and Moxley and Gage, because I think that's what they want to get to, or him, Moxley, Gage, and Tremont, or him, Moxley, Gage, and AJ Gray, or whoever. You eventually want to build to some kind of matchup that's going to be a death match in some extension with these competitors, either in a triple threat, four-way, whatever. You want to build to that matchup. And by having Cardona go over here on Janela, you're building to that opportunity. You're building to that match eventually when Cardona finally gets another shot at the GCW title in a death match scenario. So it's going to be an interesting, a ride to the next event, which I think is the spring break event. And I can't think of a better event, which I think is going to be during WrestleMania weekend. I can't think of a better event for them to do than, for that kind of a match, as I say, to take place in. And then, than that time frame. I can't think of a better place for, Moxley defending the title against Cardona, Gage, and Gray, or Cardona, or Moxley defending against Cardona, Gage, and Tremont. I can't think of a better matchup, deathmatch style-wise. I can't think of a better matchup for them to face each other in, I should say, as well as a better time than the spring break event, which I think is taking place during, at WrestleMania weekend down the line. So let me see here. So yeah. So I like I said, I can't think of a better time frame for that to happen in. I really can't. And to me, when that match happens, whether it's triple threat or fatal four way, it's going to be violent. It's going to be violent. And you know what? If I'm GCW, I have Matt Cardona win. And then, storyline wise, you have Matt Cardona through Mark Sterling or whoever put a stipulation in saying as long as he's the champion, there will be no more violence in GCW until they accept and admit that they're just a modern day second-rate version of ECW. Then, he'll compete in violent matches and all that, with the title on the line. But until they do that, every match is going to be a regular match, and that's it. So, yeah, if I'm, if I'm GCW, that's what I do. So, the next match, it wasn't much of a match, it was a segment. It was the second gear crew, Mance Warner, who we all know from MLW, and Matthew Justice. Oh, first of all, it started out with Mance Warner coming out, surprising everybody, putting over GCW and stuff, acknowledging that, physically he can't wrestle, but he can fight. He's going to be there. He can walk, he can move, he just physically can't wrestle just yet. But he's there. He is there and everything. And then he gets interrupted by the 440, which is Atticus Corrigan, Eddie Only, Gregory Iron, and Bobby Beverly. And these guys, I guess, are on the same level as Matt Cardona as being acknowledged as scumbags in GCW. Anyway, they try to beat down on him. Matthew Justice comes out for the save. He gets beat down. Lights go out. And all of a sudden, the lights come back on, and Sabu's in the ring. Now, I will say this about it. Whenever they do the lights out thing for a surprise appearance, they need to work better on it because, the way it was done, I'll give them credit. They tried, but basically, it was done in a way to where it made it to where you can almost tell somebody was entering the ring or something. But yeah, they ended up, having a brawl, and Matthew Justice ends up hitting Gregory Iron with, I think it's Gregory Iron, with a frog splash after he gets bammed right in the face with a chair by Alfonso, and then DDT'd by Alfonso. And then Alfonso counts the 3 count for the match to be over. So yeah, that was a segment. So it was nice to see Sabu, and everybody's complimented that just like Waltman, it looks like Sabu could still go. He looks great and everything, so we'll see what happens. See what happens there, but I can tell you this right now. Mance Warner, once he gets better, he's got to go to AEW because somebody, whether it's CM Punk or whoever feels with MJF, got to bring in Mance to be MJF's opponent. And you have to have Excalibur, acknowledge the history between the two. Because can you imagine? Them building up to the match at Revolution between Punk and MJF. Both are doing, choosing opponents for each other each week. And Punk says, well, here's your opponent. By the way, you may know him. They call me a Second City Saint. They called this guy, a Southern Psycho, if you know what I mean. A Southern Psycho, and then all of a sudden you would have his music hit. And imagine the look on MJS's face when he finds out not only is he going to be in probably a hardcore match the following week against opponent that Punk chooses, but imagine his reaction if Punk reveals, if they go that route to build to the match of Revolution. Imagine Punk. Not Punk, but imagine MJF's reaction of all of a sudden he hears Mance Warner's music hitting. Imagine that look of fear of, oh crap, not again, because again, build upon something that happened in another promotion, because they're doing that with, was it Paragon or whatever it is, or whatever the name of the Undisputed Era is going to be in AEW. So they're doing that there with them. Why not, do it with Mansoor and MJF, here in AEW, basing it off what they did in MLW. I'm just saying. Anyway, after that, we had Ruby Soho against Alley Catch. Not Alley Cat. She used to be Alley Cat. She's mostly known, I think, to a lot of people that watch wrestling here on YouTube or follow wrestling here on YouTube. She's known as being the only female Wrestling with Regret YouTube champion. So, yeah, she's now just being Alley Cat. According to what they said, she's trying to get away from the cat persona, meowing stuff. So she's just Alley Cat. And they had a good match. Ruby went over. Like I said, Ruby went over, but like I said, they had a great match. Obviously, you could tell that Alley Catch has that potential that if WWE decided to swallow the pride and say, hey, we want to give this girl an opportunity, I think she would fit right in there with them. So, yeah, they had a great match, but Ruby ends up winning. She ends up basically using the same maneuver she used to beat Nyla Rose in the tournament for the TBS title. She ends up using the detonator kick or destination kick or whatever off the top rope. Not off the top rope, but basically she has Alley Cat's on the top rope, and Ruby catches her and hits her with the detonator kick or destination kick on her and causes her to fall off the rope and get the pin. But yeah, I think Alley Cat. Here's the thing: Tony Khan, if he wants to help build that women's division, get someone like Alley Cat. I don't think he'll regret it. But if WWE swallows their pride and needs more women for the NXT system, get her too. Just saying. Then next up, we had Jeff Jarrett against Effie. And I'll say this. You could definitely tell that... Here's the thing. Whether you like guys like Jeff Jarrett or you don't, you can definitely tell that people have been doing it a long time. When they can go from one persona on one show to entirely 180, 360 persona on another. And that's what Jeff did here. Jeff Jarrett, basically the storyline is he's calling out GCW as being an outlaw promotion when he is one of the original Last Outlaws. And, he comes out, he has a more darker version of his My World theme playing for his entrance. He's all dressed in black. He's got a black hat, cowboy hat, leather jacket or leather jacket. He takes it off and he's just got a leather short sleeve. He's got a black tank top, a short sleeves top and pants. So he's basically changing himself up there. And you could tell he's a little bit more aggressive and everything, so he kind of gets the atmosphere he's in. And Effie, everybody said as soon as they saw him, they're like, this guy's like a Rico. He's a Rico, and yeah, he is. He is a Rico. But I think he's also very much like that. He's very much like Kiwi, if you will. Because if we remember Kiwi from WCW, one of the things that they would try to add to his character was not only was he like a Rico, very flamboyant, very feminine, if you will, gayish. No offense when I say that. But when he would get mad, out comes Angry Al. Remember that? Angry Allen? So, yeah, basically, that's kind of what you got here a little bit. Like when Effie starts to get serious, he takes the leg nettings that he's wearing, tears them up, and that just shows he's being serious. But yeah, this match was good. It was all right. Jeff Jarrett ends up winning. Basically, when he strikes Effie over with his guitar, but Effie, of course, trying to hulk up, doesn't no sell it until Jeff's like, okay, boom, he hits him with a stroke. Hits him with the stroke on the when his head's in the guitar, gets the win. And that's it. And again, this is, whether you like Jeff or you don't, this is just an example of somebody that, even though they're a Hall of Famer, 2 times, once in WWE, once in Impact, this is an example of even somebody like a Jeff Jarrett who's been in this business for a long time, knowing how to reinvent themselves, especially when it comes to being in certain promotions. like GCW. Like, if you realize, hey, I'm going to be taking part for a bit in this, kind of very renegade outlaw promotion that's more about violence, ultra violence. I need to reinvent myself. I need to get myself in that mindset. Jeff Jarrett's one of those examples of somebody that can do it. So yeah, it was a decent match, and Jarrett went over, which I'm assuming means they're going to continue the storyline. Then we had Jon Moxley against Homicide for the GCW World Title. Homicide had been inducted the previous night into the Indie Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. They were building up him being around for 25 years. There's even I guess you could say, a best of Homicide showcase on Fight TV. These guys had a good match. They had a good match. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't as violent as people would expect these two to have, because these two are known for having violent matches and can get ultra violent if need be. You want a good example of that? Check out the Barbed Wire Massacre 3 match if you want a good example of what I'm talking about from Impact. But in the end, Jon wins by hitting a paradigm shift on Homicide on a chair, on an open chair, where Homicide falls back first, and Jon Moxley wins the match. So yeah, Jon Moxley is still the GCW champion, and again, I think the timing is perfect to build to obviously what they want to build towards, which is maybe a triple threat, three-way dance, fatal four-way dance, whatever, ultra violent death match between Moxley, Gage, Cardona, and either AJ Gray or Matt Tremont. Because you build to that, and then you have storyline-wise Matt Cardona go over, basically beating these deathmatch veterans to win the GCW title, and then maybe adding the stipulation that until Brett Lauderdale and GCW come out and admit that they are just a modern-day second-rate version of ECW, that the GCW championship will only be defended in regular matches. So yeah, I think the timing obviously is perfect for that to happen here in now. And then we close out with the tag team title match. It was an open challenge by the Briscoes, who declared the open challenge at one of the GCW events against whatever tag team they would dare to face them. And the team that faced them was Matt Tremont and Nick Gage. And now Nick Gage, I think, had gone on record and said he wasn't going to be there, but obviously he was. I'm not sure if he said he wasn't going to be there unless he was the main event or something. I'm not really sure. But he was there. And he teamed up with Matt Tremont. And these guys, look, I don't, here's the thing. Everybody comes out here and says that this match was short on time. That this match, was, a victim of, not doing the production right or something, or timing right. I could see where they're coming from, but not really. Not really. Because it felt like a regular match. Yeah, it was short. According to Wikipedia, it was around 5.5 minutes, but I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine, if you will. And in the end, Matt Tremont and Nick Gage went over. There was the 3 count that happened was, it went like this, 1, 2, and then boom. It's like something was off, but it still counted. And I think it was Jay Briscoe or Mark Briscoe. No, was it Jay? No, it was Mark. No, it was Jay Briscoe. Got in the face of the referee, asking what the hell was that, wondering how was that a 3 count or something. So obviously we might get a rematch between the two teams down the line. But yeah, Matt Tremont and Nick Gage became the tag team champs. And again, Nick Gage I don't think was originally going to be there, or was trying not to be there, unless he was the main event or something. I don't know. But yeah, him and Tremont win the match. And there was weapons in there. There was moves in there. So again, I don't know where people are coming up with the perception of, it was, bell ring, boom, done, out the door, Bob's your uncle kind of deal. I don't know where they were getting that perception, because I didn't see that. I just saw a short, I saw a decently short tag team violent match. That's what I saw. I mean, one of the spots I liked in it was, what was his name? What's his name? Dewey Donovan. He brought up the pizza slicer. He was going to toss it to Nick Gage, and and I think it was Jay Briscoe tossed a chair right into Gage's face, thus intercepting Gage getting the pizza slicer and utilizing it. But again, I don't know what people were talking about it being short. I thought it was a decent length, if you will. And in the end, like I said, Tremont and Gage, they won the match. They are the tag team champs. Obviously, we're going to get a rematch. Maybe that match will be the death match. The death will be a death match, obviously, an ultraviolet death match for the tag titles, which I could see the Briscoes winning back if they decide to, stay with GCW. But yeah, I did not see any shortness here, because in storyline with any wrestling promotion, when you do an open challenge, usually you're going to expect those to answer the challenge to go over, and that the match is going to be short. That's usually the tradition. Hey, when you do an open challenge, depending on what promotion you are that does it, that usually the person that answers the open challenge will mostly go over, if you catch my drift. But yeah, the Briscoes lost the match, lost the titles, and then you had all the roster come out. Nick Gage, did a little bit of a speech and everything, and that's how they went off the air. They didn't have no copyright. They didn't have no copyright thing at the end saying copyright of GCW or anything like that. It went off the air, and that was it. And I could see exactly where people were talking about when they said it was short on time. I see that. I understand that. But long story short, the match wasn't short. It was short, but it wasn't as short as people described it. I thought it was a decent length. A decent length, I should say. But I can see where they're talking about it being cut off when they did. Here's the thing. Some things are beyond the control of certain promotions, especially if you don't have the money to say, hey, keep us on as long as you can or as long as we want. I could see that. I mean, there's a lot of examples of this. ECW, when they did the first pay-per-view, Barely Legal, from the 2400 Arena in Philadelphia. Basically they just barely got the main event, in. They barely got the main event in with Terry Funk winning before they had to go off the air, because they had time restraints, if you will. They had time restraints. Nobody had bothered to tell the pay-per-view people, hey, we're going to probably go over a little bit. Can you keep us on the air? Nobody bothered to do that, so they were on time restraints. So as soon as Terry Funk won, and you got to see him win, and everything, and then that's when, boom, the generator, I guess, blew or something, or whatever excuse they used. But basically, that's when they ran out of time. It's like you saw him win the match, and then boom, done, it's over. And they're not the only example. WCW had a similar situation. Everybody remembers DDP and Goldberg? Guess what? They had to showcase the entire match the following night on Nitro because they ran over. And nobody in WCW had the know-how to, at that time, or had the thought process of saying, oh, we need to let these people know we might go over. Can they keep us on the air a little longer? Nobody had the thought process to do that. So they ended up having to cut and end abruptly Halloween Havoc. So it's not the first time this has happened due to this. So I get people's frustration with that. But over time, there's that old saying that over time, you learn from your mistakes. And I'm sure GCW, they're going to get back on pay-per-view again, there's no doubt, are going to learn from these mistakes. And that Brett Lauderdale or whoever is going to contact the cable providers, the on-demand cable providers, and say, hey, we might go over a little bit. Can you keep us on the air for at least another hour? And that's it. That's all that he needs to do, and I'm sure they'll be okay with it. But yeah, overall though, looking back at this show, in the end, I thought it was good. I thought it was a nice first, outing on a bigger platform for GCW. I will say this, that compared to, other shows that have been in the Hammerstein, like Ring of Honor, WWE, ECW, Impact, I don't know if Impact's been in the Hammerstein. I don't know. Have they? I don't know. But whoever, I will say this. The lighting was a lot brighter. And you can definitely tell, as Solomonster points out in his review, they did a paint job on Hammerstein, and obviously it showed. It really showed. And the way they had it all arranged and everything is usually with a lot of promotions that go there. They don't have fans near the entrance, if you will. When the wrestlers come out, it's usually like that part of the, that part of the building or that part of the, the structure is blocked off. Well, obviously that's not the case here anymore. Well, that's not what GCW wanted, because you had fans in there, if you will, as the wrestlers were coming out and everything. So, yeah, the look of the venue, I will give them credit. It looked nice, but to me, I think the seating arrangement needs to be a little bit better. But again, the one thing obviously that differentiates GCW from anybody else is you have the fans being able to interact with the stars as soon as they're coming out. And that's about it. But overall, I thought, again, like I said, it was a decent outing. I know a lot of people feel that they blew it. They dropped the ball. I mean, if you want a good opinion on that, ask JD from NY 206 of Off the Script. But I thought it was overall a good show. I thought it was good. And again, you got to learn from your mistakes. I mean, let's be honest. And I don't know if JD will see this, but JD, you had an incident on Fight TV on iPay-per-view where, you lost the feed or something like that, and everybody else lost the feed temporarily during one of your recent events. Who's to say that if you guys get an opportunity to be on, be on national, worldwide, nationwide, worldwide pay-per-view like GCW, who's to say you guys won't make the same mistakes? You know what I'm saying? Who's to say your productions won't come off, as, not so good and underwhelming? You got to really think about that. I mean, I get what you're saying. I get what JD is saying, that, hey, you're hyping this up as some kind of a big deal. You need to back that hype up. You need to really back that hype up and show that this is a big deal. You need to have a bigger production value. But again, I think financially they went with what they could afford. And over time, I'm sure they'll get better at it. I mean, again, look at ECW in the past, if you know what I mean. But overall, again, like I said, I thought the show was good. I thought it was a decent first outing on traditional pay-per-view, not just Fight TV and all that. Thought it was good. And I hope to see more of this in the future. And again, I think what's going to happen is they're going to learn from their mistakes. And the next time they go on the pay-per-view, traditional pay-per-view, things will be better. I really do. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on GCW Game Changer Wrestling's first traditional worldwide, nationwide pay-per-view event, which was the World on GCW. What were your thoughts on it overall? Comment down below. Live chat during the premiere. Super chats and super stickers are encouraged to be utilized during this premiere in the live chat. We really appreciate it. But again, let me know what your thoughts are. Also, comment below, like I said. Also, check me out at BW Ruthless Discussions, all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. And if you're listening to me on Anchor.fm, listener support is activated. And if you're listening on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Anchor, or not Anchor, but Amazon Music, if any one of them has a video option for video podcasting, watching, along with listening, you have your choice there as well. Also, check me out at VENMO at VENMO at BW Roses, I should say. Also, check me out at patreon.com/BW Roses. Support me with a $1 or a $3 tier. I am considering a $5 tier in the future, but don't hold me to that just yet. That would be for Q&As, but we'll see what happens in the future. Also, check me out at Venmo at Brian-Walmer-2. But until next time, guys, let me know what your thoughts are overall again, on the World on GCW. What did you think of the event overall? Also, comment in the live chat during the premiere. And again, like I said, super chats and super stickers are open and encouraged. And until next time, guys, I will talk to y'all later.